Hi and welcome everyone. I know we're a minute early. Um, if you could just put in the chat where you're calling from, or if anyone's here. Hi and welcome to week two, the cost of Black excellence. And today we'll be looking at the performance tax. And for those that don't know me or they weren't on the live stream or you've never seen any of my posts, I'm Natasha Williams and I'm a former managing director of a building surveying company. And I ran that for about 13, 14 years, I think. And I was one of the few black women running that type of business in the West Midlands, in Birmingham to be specific. And I went through severe burnout. And whilst I was going through my burnout, I trained as a trauma informed coach. I then started to ask myself, what is this Black excellence costing us? So, yeah, so in 2019, it was severe burnout and I couldn't avoid it any longer. What was this all costing me? That became the research that I'll present to you today. Um, and over 1,000 people answered the survey across the UK, US, and Canada. So today I'll be talking about the foundation taxes before I go into the performance tax specifically. My notes are not moving anywhere. Just a moment. So yeah, today I'll be talking about the performance tax. But before I go into the performance tax, I want to talk about the foundation taxes because there are 15 taxes. And I want to give you the context that it sits inside because it makes everything else um, come together, really. So, 15 taxes across five categories. The first category is the foundation taxes, as in ground level. These are the costs you carry before anything else happens, before the working day has started. There are three taxes in this category: the performance tax, the proof tax, and the perfection tax. We're covering all three over the coming weeks. Today is entirely focused on the performance tax, and we're going deep into it and instead of just skimming across all three. Yeah. Thank you, Selena. Over 1,000 people responding to the survey. Yes, that is incredible. Thank you so much. Um, so the performance tax is about, let me just change my slide. The performance tax is about working substantially harder than your white colleagues just to be seen as baseline credible. Um, your white colleagues have this automatically when they go into their workplace. They don't have to prove competence, and that is handed to them without any question. You have to catch up to get there. And I think this is something that we've been programmed with throughout our whole lives. I know my mum said that you had to work 10 times harder just to get half of as far, which led me down the education path, business path, all sorts of things I was doing in order to be better than everybody else at in the workplace. So this is just some feedback from the people within the research. One person said it costs authenticity, peace, and sometimes your health. And that is so true. A lot of the research participants talk about how their health has deteriorated simply because they're performing a lot harder than others to be seen as competent. And people know that they need to be conscious of that they need to work harder and to better measure up in this sea of mediocrity. Um, and a lot of people have developed burnout because of it. Within the research, 86% of over 1,000 black professionals report working harder than white colleagues just to be seen as competent. Um, and a quote from the research again: I work twice as hard for half the recognition my white colleagues get praised for ideas I presented weeks earlier. And the thing is that we have seen within the research that a lot of people are just overlooked, um, even presenting their research, presenting their skills, presenting anything at work. While colleagues will look at this and say, oh, that sounds like a good idea, and they steal those ideas for themselves. That came out quite a lot in the research. Where are we? Sorry. Right. 60% of people say this is their permanent reality, so they have to work in that way each day, every day, day in, day out. There's no letting up. Um, Next week, we'll go into the proof tax, but this working harder that we've been programmed to do is something that we need to sort of mitigate within the workplace, within the business place. So, yeah, that is something 60% say it's their permanent reality, always feeling that they have to work harder than absolutely everybody else in the workplace. I think I've lost my slides here. 66% of directors and executives report the highest rate of always within any career level. So that means that 66% of the your colleagues are saying that they need to work harder than everybody else, even at the director level. At the entry level, the thing is that they felt that they had to work hard, but they didn't have to work as hard as when they were at the director level. So the thing is that this compounds as you go along. There's no letting up. It's always like this. And the cycle, there is a cycle. You work harder, creates more exhaustion. Exhaustion affects performance, which you then get called into your manager's office and then you have to explain yourself. Um, and they see that as proof, as them being right about you, so then you work harder again. So you're just in that constant cycle of just working harder and harder all the time, trying to prove yourself, but it gets you nowhere fast. And I'm proof of that. There's just doing 5 or 6 people's jobs, thinking that I have to be better than everybody else, led to extreme exhaustion. So the cost to you. So this tax isn't free. You're paying it with your energy before the working day starts, your attention that should go to strategy and creativity. And we'll talk about that a bit more. It affects your health, it affects your time, the hours spent over preparing. And we see that quite a lot with a lot of our colleagues just over preparing, perfectionism getting in the way. They're not able to do what they're supposed to do because they're focusing on just becoming that perfect person within the organization. I had an I had a letter from somebody that said that they were working harder not to be seen as the incompetent black man in the office because he was the only one. He was the only one of color within the office. So he felt that he needed to show that he was more than competent. So, one thing I tell everyone to do is to protect your energy. you can't opt out of the tax, but you can stop paying it with more than you owe. Um, from the research, I found that we've done enough. We have abundance of resilience. We need to name what is happening to us in terms of the performance tax. We need to track it, and we need to set a preparation ceiling so you don't go overboard with over preparing, overdoing things. And I think sometimes we have to step back and look at strategy instead of all these tactical things that we have to do on a daily basis. I think the first point of actually doing anything is to be strategic about your career, be intentional about your career, be intentional about where you are going in the workplace, outside the workplace, where you spend your time. The next thing you can do is to protect your credibility. Um, you can spend your time documenting your wins. This is something very important so that you understand what can I do, what have I done. We've got a lady in the community, I think, and she hasn't documented what she needed automatically. And with that came the fact that she hasn't been in a job for a while. So the thing is that if she had documented those wins, she would know how to go on to the next role, telling people, explaining, not even an explanation, just showcasing what she has done before. Make your expertise visible before the room doubts it, before anybody doubts it. With that, documenting, putting your wins on LinkedIn, putting your wins on the CV, having a folder with everything that you've done over the years in your workplace, and ask directly for what you need. Sometimes you think that your manager is against you. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes there are people who are willing to help you inside and outside the organization. I'm a big advocate for mentoring and sponsorship so that people can sponsor you, talk about you when you're not in the room, recommend you for other things that are going on, other projects in different companies. I have a sort of range of people that recommend me, that are always talking about me in all sorts of places. And then people will say, "Oh, Natasha, I've seen you were recommended by so and so. I would like to work with you on whatever." Always do that to protect your credibility. And build your infrastructure. Um, you need to find mirrors. Stop navigating this alone. I have, um, yes, Selena said a brag file is essential. Thank you for that, Selena. Find your mirrors, stop navigating this alone, and look at your career through a CEO's lens. You've got to manage your career. You've got to be strategic about your career, about in anything, in your business, in your career, in your life. You've got to be strategic, because if you're not strategic, then the thing is that you get onto someone else's path and then you start following that person. You don't know where you're going. Before long, you don't even know why you're doing that particular job. So, what I've done, I've created a community, and so that you don't have to do this alone. We have Selena's been here on me, one of our top coaches within the community that gets results, no bullshit, focused, get you to where you need to go. She's in that community every Tuesday. We are in that community every Tuesday. So we do the tax break live, which is live coaching. We have first class Fridays, which is live training with specialist practitioners. You can join at the founding members rate, which helps us to do more research and move things along a lot quicker. So we're creating courses for Black professionals like yourself. and you get access to all the recordings. We're creating something called the Career CEO Intensive so that you are intentional about your career. And it's a 6 module course to help you lead your career in the right direction on your own terms. And you can find the details at community.costofblackexcellence.com. And next week, we will be talking about the proof tax, the obligation to demonstrate competence. And it's same time next week, 3 p.m., probably about 15 minutes again, because I like to do these things quickly. The cost of blackexcellence.com, and you can find the details there, or I'm all around on LinkedIn. Thank you so much. Has anyone got any questions? I see that Selena, my fantastic coach there, said, OMG, yes, most black people are hired because they are 3 times better. But this never stops, and the and exceptional performance becomes something. Anyway, I heard from a lady that actually said that she's a recruitment officer. She knows that when a black person applies for a senior role, she knows that person is going to be 3 times better qualified, because people are not giving us those chances. So the thing is that, as Selena says, and I say as well, brag file is absolutely essential. It's you need that evidence to show what you've done, to prove your credibility, to take you forward in your career. Sometimes it's not, um, we are excellent, we are doing excellent things, and we need to showcase that excellence. And one of the best ways to showcase that excellence is to have clarity on where you're going and where you want to go. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.